So let's look at him on the downswing now. So bring him into impact. Let me find the right impact spot. Right there. So 31 degrees. So he's gone from 35 to 31, and it was 25 and 50.
Yeah.
So this is much more balanced. And in some swings, this was dead even. It was like 33, 33. Some other swings, it was 35 open, 33 at the top. So given the variability from swing to swing, he's now balanced out his pelvic rotation. And we'll show you here in just a second. It made his club move much better, which allowed him to hit what he wanted, which was more shots on target. Shaun, one of the most common things that we see in lessons is the idea of just kind of golfers want to max out their rotation. They want to rotate more. They want to rotate better because the idea is that it's going to help you hit better shots, hit longer shots, all those sorts of things. And we're going to jump right into something that we've never done before. We're going to kind of show you a before and after of a PGA Tour winner.
Yeah.
And how he's increased his rotation by the concepts we're going to mention to you today.
Yeah, I think a lot of golfers come into lessons thinking the more they can turn on the backswing, the farther they're going to hit it. And maybe somehow magically the more they turn going back, the more it'll kind of slingshot and they'll get more open and impact. So I think as usual, or like always, the concepts are a little bit off.
Right. So what you're seeing on the screen here is PGA Tour winner. And these golfers on the tour are great golfers, right? Their problems are they're just like everyone else. They have swing issues. They're working on things in their swing, and they're always trying to get better. They're playing for a lot of money, and every ounce of improvement helps, right? Just like everyone else. The stakes are higher, and their bad that they do is it's relative to being a great golfer, right? It's not the same issue that we see on a daily basis with, say, a 15 handicapper.
Yeah, it's just at a higher level, right?
That's exactly
their
right.
misses aren't as bad, and they're still looking for those one or two things that can change 3 or 4 things, right, for the better. So when they come in, it's the same thing. We look at what they're doing and try to find kind of that needle in a haystack.
Right. And with regards to the topic we're talking about today of this hip rotation, we'll see maybe 2x worse job with most amateurs than what we're going to show you today, but the same concept holds true.
Yeah, exactly. They suffer from some of the same things,
right?
Just not as bad.
As bad. When they miss the sweet spot, it's not on the chrome of the of the face, right? It's dimples off, but it still has a negative effect when the margins are so razor thin out there.
Yeah, and out there too. I mean, this ties into what we're talking about today. Being able to control the club face at these high speeds, that's paramount, right? It's one thing to hit it far, but you still have to hit the ball and play.
Absolutely. Okay, so what you're looking at on the screen here is a PGA Tour winner. And we're going to show you, this is before swing, and we're just going to kind of roll you through his backswing here to impact. And you can see we've circled, or we've put up on the screen here, his rotation numbers, his rotation with his pelvis, his rotation with his rib cage, okay? So you're going to see those play live as he starts to roll back. And we'll take him up here to the top right there. Now, if you'll notice that his max rotation happened just before the top with his pelvis. We'll say right in there. So almost 47, or it's 47 degrees, almost 50 degrees. So, there's a variation from swing to swing. So we'll just round this up so I don't have to do a lot of math. And we'll just call that 50 degrees here of rotation. Come on, Ben. 50 degrees of rotation. That looks like 500. We'll just say 50. 50 degrees of pelvis rotation at the top. Okay. Now let's take him down into impact. Right, if I can time this right, there. So went from impact, he's now at 23 degrees, or we can even say 25.
Which is low end.
Low end.
For a PGA Tour player.
Right, at impact. So you can see the imbalance there. 50 on the closed side of rotation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 25 at impact. Now, we see this all the time in lessons. We'll see golfers who will come in and they'll wipe away this 50 number and they'll get to 65. We've even seen as much as 74 degrees of rotation closed in the backswing with the intent. This is when we talk to the golfers and we say, okay, what are you trying to do in your backswing? I'm trying to rotate more so I can get more open in the downswing.
100%. They think it's just like a slingshot effect.
Right. So remember, we all have X amount of time to rotate in the downswing, right? That quarter of a second still
Or
looms
less, depending on how long you're swinging.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So that shot clock is still looming. So this golfer covered roughly 75 degrees in his downswing. We've seen golfers almost cover that in the backswing. So just to get back to square setup, we're seeing 5 degrees open, 10 degrees open, and golfers are asking themselves to cover. If they turn 70 degrees, 65 degrees in the backswing, and they want to be 30, 40 degrees open, they're asking themselves to cover 100, sometimes 110 degrees of rotation when they sit at a desk all day.
Yeah, and the problem becomes when someone that comes in and turns 65 degrees on the backswing, to do that, you're having to sacrifice how your body's positioned.
Right.
You usually have to have a really flat hip turn, and you lose any kind of good connection you had with the ground with your feet. Because coming out of the top of the swing, that's when we need to start putting in some energy into the swing, right?
Right.
And if you're rotated incorrectly or flat with not a good connection with the ground, it makes it impossible to kind of put your foot on the accelerator.
That's exactly right. And we'll go back and look at this swing here, and we'll put kind of our classic line just around the front of the head here. And this golfer's miss was too many balls that start right and overdraw. Okay, so he wanted to tame the overdraw. You can see right here, right when he's trying to recover from that rotation, the head pulls away from the line a pretty good bit. And in his case, that dropped the club under, and he come into out and hit more of a draw. Now, most of you watching this would be happy with that amount of draw he had, but again, the margins are much tighter.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Kind of a more turn on the way back, less coming down. Club gets a little underneath, right?
Right.
And the club face tends to get the ball going left.
In his case, and you'll see in just a second, it gets underneath late.
Got it.
Right? Because he had to rotate faster and harder out of the top to try to recover from that amount of close in the backswing. So when it drops under late, that's where you start to miss the ball left. All right, now let's look at him in the after swing. We'll take him up to the top. So right at, we'll say 30 degrees. So we'll just call it 35 degrees of rotation at the top. Roughly 15 degrees difference. Okay, now we did not ask him to restrict his hip rotation. And when we say balance the rotation from backswing to downswing, a lot of golfers will interpret that as, okay, I'm going to physically try not to rotate my hips. And that's not what we're after.
No, it's one of the worst things you can do.
Yeah, exactly right. Instead, you want to make sure your body's moving with the proper tilts. And in just about all cases, that means better leg work. You will control your hip motion much better, much more accurately, and much more useful to you by controlling how your knees move in the backswing and downswing.
Yeah, and getting the knees to move correctly will get the tilt of the pelvis correct. And even where it is laterally, you don't want to move it toward the target too much on the backswing either. So getting that pelvis in the right position will allow you to maximize your turn the correct way, and it'll kind of naturally limit itself is the way you want to think about it.
Well, yeah, we all have a certain range of motion. I think when we were messing around the other day, I think I was able to get my pelvis to turn almost 90 degrees in the backswing. Yeah. But to do that, it looked nothing golf-like, right?
Exactly.
Then if you put yourself in the good tilts, you work the knees correctly, the pelvis kind of has a much shorter range of motion. Now, it's not a short range of motion. It's just a much shorter range of motion, typically for most golfers in that 35 to 45 degree range. Yeah,
and the way I like to look at it, when you put your pelvis in that bad position, kind of flat hips, and overturn. It's like trying to get your car going starting in fifth gear.
Right.
You're limiting how much acceleration you can get right out of the gate. So getting the pelvis positioned correctly, getting some tilts, and then having the pressure in the right place allows you to kind of spike the ground immediately, right, and get the pelvis moving faster. And we're able to see it now. We got the luxury of having these force plates now to go along with gears. And it's kind of fascinating to see how the ground forces move around depending on where you tilt the body and put the pressure. So we got the advantage of kind of having the knowledge from that as well, which makes it which makes it kind of fun, right?
Absolutely.
Cause and effect.
It takes away a lot of guesswork.
It does.
Okay, so let's look at him on the downswing now. So bring him into impact. Let me find the right impact spot. Right there. So 31 degrees. So he's gone from 35 to 31, and it was 25 and 50.
Yeah.
So this is much more balanced. And in some swings, this was dead even. It was like 33, 33. Some other swings, it was 35 open, 33 at the top. So given the variability from swing to swing, he's now balanced out his pelvic rotation. And we'll show you here in just a second. It made his club move much better, which allowed him to hit what he wanted, which was more shots on target.
Yeah, and everybody thinks of balance is just kind of how you're balancing yourself as far as between your feet.
Whether you're falling over
right?
or not.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different balance points in the swing, I would say, and this is an important one, just kind of symmetry of rotation.
Yep, absolutely. So let's roll him now into impact, into this overview. And this is one of the coolest things we can do with gears. We can actually lay a golfer's swing over top of himself. Okay, so you can see the before and after. The yellow swing was the before, and the blue swing is the after. Again, we'll put our line right here so you can see the difference, what we looked at just a minute ago. As he gets rolling. So anytime you see, especially with a good player, when you see what looks like small differences here on the screen, they're huge differences. You're talking the difference between being in the fairway and being in someone's backyard is just a few degrees.
That's right. It doesn't take much at those speeds especially.
Right. And a few degrees, a few inches, or fractions of an inch in most cases, you're talking about a big change. Now you're really starting to see the difference in how these clubs shallow and what that shallowing looks like coming down. So you can see in the after swing, the blue swing, how much more shallow early he is. Okay, by again, not having to fire the hips so hard out of the top. And then the club will get on plane more right here, coming into the ball rather than under plane in the yellow swing. And you can see the head is much closer to that starting line. Again, just gave him a much more neutral path, much more neutral club face. These guys are already good swingers, and they know how to score. And he was able to take that and play pretty darn well with it.
Yeah, and I think it just makes a good point for instead of just trying to figure out impact, you have to kind of go back in the chain and really see what the root cause is for the problems that you're having.
Right.
And I think that's a better way to go about it than just trying to fix impact, which is just a fleeting moment. It's almost impossible just to fix that spot in the swing. So go back a few frames in the swing and figure out where the problem is really coming from.
Yeah, and the takeaway here, I believe, is, make sure your concept is golfers are great at doing what they're trying to do. If you're trying to rotate a ton in the backswing, max out that rotation, chances are you're doing it. You have to ask yourself, okay, from 65, 70 degrees, do I have enough athleticism? Am I flexible enough? Am I mobile enough to outperform what these PGA Tour players do? We hear it all the time. Why do you use PGA Tour players? The rest of us can't move like that. Well, in most cases, you're asking yourself to move better than what these guys are doing.
Great point.
Because of the concepts that you're trying to employ. So make sure your concept is that you can maximize your athleticism where it matters most, down by the ball, not in the backswing, thinking that it'll show up down by the ball. It's not always, like you said, it's not a slingshot. The body doesn't work that way.
It's not, and you make a great point. We try to find the commonalities in great players. Success does leave clues, and we try to find the commonalities that anybody can apply in their swing. And I think make a great point with this swing here.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did enjoy it, go ahead and give it a like. Also, if you have any questions about today's video, or you have an idea of a video that you want us to shoot, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. We read every single comment. We also respond to the comments. So again, leave us a comment if you have any questions or there's anything you'd like to see. Now, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button. We have videos coming out every single week, and we don't want you to miss one. So by clicking subscribe, that ensures you're notified right away when a new video comes out. And hey, if you want to add instant distance to your drive, and we all do, everybody wants more distance, go ahead and click the link in the pinned comment below. You're going to see a link. Click on it. It's going to take you to a page. You're going to enter your name and email address. We're going to send you an email where you're going to get access to instant distance, which is a video training that we put out. We know it's going to help you. We know we're going to see you farther down the fairway.